Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing awesome out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone's been having a great week out there so far. Happy July. It's the 1st. We're just cruising on through the year. So it's pretty wild, but here we are. Here to talk about the weather. We'll speak on today's weather first. We'll speak on current conditions, the latest outlooks, and then we'll speak on the entire country. We'll break it down section by section. We'll zoom into a couple areas. For example, one area I'm really watching for today into tonight is the Mid-Atlantic. You guys run a higher risk of flash flooding and severe weather. But we'll zoom into many states like we've been doing over the last several weeks and few months. And then we'll speak on the days that come as far as severe weather, flash flooding risk, and all that stuff. And then we'll round out the video with an update on the tropics. We'll get detail for you folks, give you the latest information that we have. We've been watching the potential for some tropical development in areas of the Gulf or Southeast over the next 7 days. So we'll give you the latest information that we have with model guidance. And then we'll round off the video with a Bible devotion. If you're interested in that, we'll get in scripture and read in that and then talk on it for a few minutes. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or anyone else can pray over, please put it in the comments below. Just remember, prayer is powerful. And not only do I see these comments, but many other people read over them also. It's a family type environment in here. We all know that for people that's been tuning in for any length of time. So I'm not just reading over these prayer requests, but potentially hundreds, maybe even thousands if the video gets out there more, or reading over your prayer requests and praying over it also. So definitely put it there. If it's unspoken, put that. We got you covered. And more importantly, God's got you covered. So let's get rocking and rolling. So this is the latest radar for what's going on right now. We got rain cruising through Indiana, getting into Ohio. We even have some ongoing flash flood warnings right now in Indiana. Moisture hanging out kind of in the armpit of the Gulf here, the Northeast Gulf. And we got some moisture now hanging out kind of off the southern tip of Florida and around the Bahamas. We got a big push of moisture through Texas. This is due to a moisture push from the south to the north because of the remnants of Tropical Storm Barry that made landfall in Mexico yesterday, a day before. Heck, I can't even remember. But anyways, we're getting a big push of moisture there. Some moisture cruising across areas of New England. We had some heavy rain ongoing just off the coastline of southern New England. And some moisture also beginning to be on the increase across the western U.S. And we will talk about that when we get to the western U.S. time stamp. So this is current conditions, the latest watches, warnings, advisories, all those things. The orange counties, those are heat advisories. So the entire country looks to be pretty warm today. It was pretty warm yesterday. We got red flag warnings across areas of the western states, some extreme heat warnings, very hot in areas of Arizona, southern Cal. Flood watches are right back up, just like they were last week across areas of western Texas, several counties in New Mexico. We also have flood watches across the Mid-Atlantic, all the way into New Jersey, southeast PA. So flood watches are widespread in these areas. A lot of rain is possible over the next 48 hours or so. Some dense fog up here in Maine, areas of southern New England. So we definitely have to watch out for a lot of rain in this area. And we're going to go and get very detailed on this area here in a few minutes. So moving past that, as far as the Storm Prediction Center outlook, marginal risk across the northern and central high plains. So a little bit of a risk of severe weather. And we have a very large marginal risk stretching from Maine all the way down to the deep south states. A cold front is going to make it all the way down here. Now, when I say cold front, I'm not talking about a big time cool down or anything like that. But it will provide a little bit of dry air, but still pretty moist. Cold fronts just don't do much this time of the year when they do make it to the south. Sometimes they do. Every once in a while, you'll get a morning really far south that's in the 60s and it's nice. I don't think this will do much of that, but there is a slight risk, level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather across a pretty highly populated corridor from Virginia through Maryland, southeast PA, through New Jersey, areas of Delaware. So what's driving this? Okay, let's zoom in. Now, it's going to be a lot of clutter because there's a lot of road network, a lot of towns and communities. Obviously, you got Washington, Baltimore, and Philadelphia, all the way up to New York City in this, but I'll just jump ahead to the wind outlook. Really what's driving the slight risk for today is winds. There's a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour within 25 miles in a given location. So these storms will pack a punch today, but even down here across the southern Alps, all the way down to Atlanta, Charlotte, Greenville, Spartanburg, all the way down to Birmingham, these storms could have a little oomph to them, if you will, today also. So the flash flooding threat, the red area, this is new. There is a 40% risk of flash flooding within 25 miles in a given location in this red area. Yellow area, 15% risk of that. And that's for a pretty large area of the western U.S. And then there's a couple areas also down here for Texas and New Mexico. And then a secondary area really in deep south portions of Texas. But just a closer look at this once again. It's kind of right over the slight risk areas for severe weather. If you live in this red region, that is a 40% risk of flash flooding within 25 miles in any given location for today. So a lot of widespread thunderstorm activity expected in this region. We'll get detailed on that here in a second. But the southeast first, we'll take a broad look at things and we'll move forward here. You can see there's a lot of moisture just hanging out here in the Gulf and then even off the southeast coastline of Florida around the Bahamas. But you can see a lot of widespread thunderstorms developing here in middle eastern Tennessee, eastern Kentucky, West Virginia. We'll talk on all those states here in a second. But we got thunderstorms developing down here in Alabama, Georgia, and then we'll make it into later in the evening, like just after dinner time, 9, 10 o'clock. A lot of thunderstorm activity in portions of Mississippi, especially Alabama and Georgia. Thunderstorms dancing around the state of Florida. And then we'll just go on and sweep this all the way through because I am going to take a closer look at some of these areas. 1 p.m. we'll start off in Mississippi, Alabama. As we move forward here, there is enough push in the atmosphere for these not to be, now it is pop-up in nature, but there's enough flow in the atmosphere to push these storms one way or the other. So it'll be more of a west to east movement. So 5 p.m. we got a lot of thunderstorms developing between Meridian, Tuscaloosa, down at Hattiesburg, also down near Gulfport, Biloxi. And then we take it to about 8 p.m. Thunderstorms become more widespread further south, Jackson, Meridian, down to Montgomery. Still could have more thunderstorm activity in like northeast and northern Alabama. And then we begin to take it into about, midnight tonight. Could have a broken line of storms surging through southern areas of Alabama and Mississippi. We'll see what happens with that. And just note that all these storms can produce frequent lightning, flash flooding, even though the risk isn't high for that, and some hail and strong winds. Tornado threat very low, but as you know, you never can rule it completely out. Now, Florida, there isn't even a marginal risk here, but I just want to take a look at Florida just because there's a whole lot of rain and tropical downpours are going to be dancing around across the entire state of Florida. The Panhandle, northern Florida, the peninsula. We got a lot of thunderstorm activity down here for the southern tip of Florida. I mean, as early as 3 p.m. this afternoon. Most of the heaviest moisture is hanging out in the Gulf here, but there's still a lot of moisture over land over the state of Florida. But you get into 8 p.m., a lot of thunderstorm activity, especially, maybe not as widespread in coverage across the Panhandle, northern Florida, but from central to southern Florida, looks very widespread. So if you're vacationing in the theme parks in central Florida, it's definitely going to get wet this afternoon into this evening, I think. And then with the loss of daytime heating, it could become less widespread. Even as we're waking up tomorrow morning, could still be dealing with a lot of tropical downpours and thunderstorm activity. But Georgia, South Carolina, starting off around 3 p.m., some pop-up thunderstorms are possible, especially in southern areas of Georgia. Could begin to get some thunderstorms in Chattanooga, up in the northwest Georgia also. And then we take it to about 7 p.m. Some thunderstorms will become more widespread across, from Atlanta, Athens, up to the Greenville, Spartanburg area. Augusta, Columbia. I don't think we're going to get a whole lot of activity at this point. I think it'll take later into the evening. But as we get into 10, 11, 12, 1 a.m. tonight, we could get some boomers later tonight, like for central Georgia, central South Carolina, up into North Carolina. And just could have some rain lingering around. And we're probably going to wake up to widespread clouds because of the leftover moisture overnight. But once again, these storms could pack a punch. 10 a.m., we're going to start off here in Virginia, North Carolina surrounding states. As you can tell, widespread thunderstorm activity in eastern Kentucky. Then the western Carolinas, western Virginia, 4 p.m., thunderstorms become widespread. And these could pack more of a punch. The further north you get up into Virginia, this is the area where these storms could produce more so damaging winds and just more severe hazards. But you see it's very active in West Virginia. We'll zoom into West Virginia more so here in a second. But 8 p.m., thunderstorms in Boone, Banner Elk, Asheville, 9 p.m., 10 p.m., and then just a very stormy evening, I think, across the Piedmont, Triad, heck, even into the Triangle of North Carolina, very stormy up towards Richmond, Roanoke. This is getting into 1 o'clock in the morning. Looks like widespread heavy rain and thunderstorm activity across Virginia, North Carolina. Looks like the eastern sections of North Carolina not getting much of this, so we'll see about that. But rainfall, I'm really going to zoom into this area between now and about 8 p.m. tomorrow night. Some heavy rainfall is possible, especially for the Panhandle, but there's going to be pockets in the orange here across the peninsula of Florida that gets over an inch of rain. So we want to take a closer look at that. Now the Northeast today, dealing with some rain this morning across the Northeast. And as we start to get to about early mid-afternoon, you can see the widespread thunderstorm activity for these states. I'm going to zoom into all of these, but don't want to leave you guys hanging in the interior sections of New England. Some thunderstorms are all possible in Vermont, New Hampshire, into western Maine. You can see these storms around 4 p.m. this afternoon, so be aware of that. And as we are starting to get to more so the evening, dinner time, storms could be still around in northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, northern New York, Maine, and then some thunderstorms possible this evening across southern New England. So look at all the rain still hanging around here in the mid-Atlantic. So let's go on and zoom into that area. West Virginia first, starting off around noon. Thunderstorms could be widespread across southeast Ohio. And then these storms will run into a little bit more of an environment that supports just the strengthening of storms. So this is 4 p.m. Thunderstorms possible really anywhere in West Virginia. I could mention, every single town I know in West Virginia, but just know anywhere in West Virginia could get strong to severe storms today. And then you continue, and then this is what the coverage looks like around 7 p.m. Could more so congeal into a heavy rain threat. Watch out for a flash flooding threat, especially the further, I would say the closer you are, the more you're into the mountainous regions of West Virginia. But Charleston getting several hours of heavy rain, at least on and off. And then we start to get to about midnight. Things should begin to calm on down. But, it's going to be a pretty rocky afternoon, evening hours here in West Virginia. And then we take a look at the mid-Atlantic. And, one thing I do want to look here is how much rainfall is forecast for this area over the next. So this between now and 8 p.m. tomorrow, an inch and a half of rain is possible widespread across the state of West Virginia. So be aware of that. Now the mid-Atlantic, kind of the D.C., Baltimore, up the Wilmington corridor, starting off around mid-morning. We take it to about early afternoon. This is 2 p.m. Thunderstorms in northern VA. Starting to creep into the Baltimore, D.C. area. And around 3 p.m. already shows some thunderstorm potential around the D.C., Baltimore area. But, we start to get to about 5, 6 p.m. Widespread thunderstorms in the northern half of Virginia, in the mid-Atlantic area, the Delmarva, the Tidewater. And listen, all of these can produce damaging winds, so be aware. And then as we get deeper into the evening, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., just could have a lot of rounds of heavy rain. Multiple rounds of heavy rain possible. And then the flooding threat could materialize. We get the 2 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. Still dealing with heavy rain as we're waking up tomorrow morning. And, we'll show you the rainfall prediction in this area. This is between now and about 8 p.m. tomorrow. Not ground-busting totals or anything like that, but this area's already picked up a lot of rain lately. So widespread 1 to 2 inch rainfall totals over the next 36 hours in this area. So be aware of heavy rainfall with these storms, with this cold front moving in. So PA, starting off around mid-morning. Already about lunchtime, we got some thunderstorms dancing around here in southwest and southern areas of PA. As we start to get to about 3 p.m., let's move it one more, 3 p.m. Looks like more so rain in northern PA, but the southern half of Pennsylvania, State College, Harrisburg, over to Reading, Lancaster, strong to severe thunderstorm activity is possible. Slight risk does extend into southeast PA. Allentown, watch out. These storms widespread. I mean, this is 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., and then things should begin to calm down later into the evening. And we will show you how much rainfall is predicted. Let's just do the next 24 hours between now and about 8 p.m. tonight. So short term, really, a couple inches of rain is possible in this corridor right here, Allentown down to Lancaster, Wilmington, Philadelphia. You guys could get around an inch of rain. So definitely a lot. Now, looking at the New York City up in the southern New England area, Long Island, New Jersey included, 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Looks pretty quiet, but some thunderstorms beginning to enter Philadelphia, Trenton. Then it looks like a pretty stormy evening for New Jersey. Look at all that thunderstorm activity. A lot of lift with this cold front. 8 p.m., 9 p.m. We'll have to see how intense these thunderstorms are around the New York City, Long Island, Bridgeport, up to Connecticut area. Shows kind of this line beginning to weaken as it gets out into the Atlantic. Then we have a developing line of storms kind of moving out of areas of New York into Connecticut. And we'll see how much of a punch this packs up here in like in Worcester and Springfield into Boston late tonight. This is getting to after midnight. A lot of heavy rain setting up. So, yeah, guys, I mean, a lot of rain is possible in this area too. Let's look at that. Between now and the next 36 hours, Philadelphia could get an inch, inch and a half between now and about 8 p.m. tomorrow. And around an inch of rain is possible in New York City. So, a lot of rain. The south central U.S., big influx of moisture pushing out of Mexico into central to western Texas. So a lot of rain down here in southern Texas. It's for around 3 p.m. this afternoon. You can see just widespread downpours into this area. Central, kind of east central Texas, an area that's starting to dry out. Not a whole lot of rain, though. It's kind of been just looping around this area. Louisiana been getting rain, Arkansas, southern Oklahoma, western Texas. But this area of Texas, I see you. You ain't been getting a whole lot of rain lately. But rainfall will continue into the overnight hours, be widespread, and then we'll do it again once again tomorrow. But that's really the only area to watch. And if you look at rainfall between now and the next 72 hours, so this is like between now and about 7 p.m. Thursday, you can see most of the rain confined to South Texas, and then it kind of goes around this area of Texas here. So, the purple area over an inch of rain's possibly starting to get in these red areas. This is where over 2 inches of rain's forecast. But definitely going around, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, heck, even pretty much the Dallas-Fort Worth area also. You got to get just north of this area to get some appreciable rainfall totals. So we'll see what happens. But the north central U.S., I mean, there ain't a whole lot to speak on up here, guys. I mean, watch out for an area of thunderstorms here in western Nebraska that could get going. Could actually be more intense than it looks here in western areas of the state. So just be aware of that. Some thunderstorms could develop into the wee hours of the morning in like areas of South Dakota. You see them right here. A little bit of convection here in northern Minnesota. This is like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And this will eventually drift down into like Sioux Falls, maybe Sioux Cities region. For tomorrow morning, so it could wake up to some thunderstorms in that area tomorrow morning. But outside of that, man, not a whole lot to talk about. And then the western U.S., moisture becomes widespread starting today. So, we'll stop it here. It's around 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon across the western U.S. I know you don't see a whole lot, but just some pockets of green, splashes of yellow. So just moisture on the increase. This stuff will pop up and then diminish with the loss of daytime heating, and we'll turn around and do it again tomorrow. This is like tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. It looks even more widespread as far as rainfall. So definitely a rainier pattern setting up. And if I do take a look at, say, the Four Corners region, it's between now and 6 a.m. Sunday. A lot of rain possible across some of these regions. So just be aware of that. A lot of rain for you guys as standards for sure. Now, temperatures, everywhere's warm. I mean, no one's really cool. The only areas that'll be kind of coolish today is maybe some of the regions that just don't get out the cloud cover, like in the Appalachian Mountains. There is a potential you guys don't really shake the cloud cover today, so this will prevent temperatures from getting too warm, but it'll still be muggy. But ahead of this cold front, it will get into the 80s and 90s. Pocket of much warmer temperatures across Louisiana, eastern Texas, 90s, high humidity. And then the Northeast, 70s, 80s, some 90s. And just the Midwest, just 80s. Nothing too crazy one way or the other. Now, out west, it's hot. Some of the valley floors will get closer to the upper 90s, low 100s, hot all the way up into Montana. So, I mean, it's pretty hot out west. So, the severe weather outlook for days to come, marginal risk does stretch across areas of the upper Midwest into the Great Lakes region. So some of these storms for tomorrow, a little bit of flow will try to reach strong to severe limits. And then same thing across the northern Rockies. We'll have to watch for some flow kind of moving across this area and then across this area. And then general risk of thunderstorms across the southeast. I do think there'll be widespread thunderstorms depending on where you live across areas of the southeast states. And we look at day 3 outlook, marginal risk, a level 1 out of 5 for severe weather. So this is for, get my days mixed up. This is for Thursday. Okay, July 3rd. Some of these storms could pack more of a punch in this area here. Level 1 out of 5, risk of severe weather. And then there is the same thing for the northern high plains. Now we look at the excessive rainfall outlook. This is for tomorrow. Need to watch, for areas of like southeast VA, northeast North Carolina, a little bit of a higher risk of flash flooding. And then for day 3, a flooding threat could begin to materialize. Eventually, all this rain is going to start to add up. So I do want to watch west coast of Florida into the Bend. You guys have a 15% risk of flash flooding. Even day 4, certainly watch. Could get an upgrade in Florida. But moving past that, guys, a lengthy update on the tropics here. And honestly, we won't stay on this longer than we did say yesterday. But right now, we're still waking up to a 20% risk of tropical development. And right now, I don't anticipate this increasing. I think it'll stay like this for a few days and maybe another 48 hours before they decide to drop it or to rise it. But over the last, I would say, 24, 36 hours of model runs, things have not really went one way or the other. So they're keeping it at about a 20% chance of tropical development in that yellow area, which means tropical development means, and people ask us a lot of time, what do you mean by tropical development? This basically means there's a 20% chance of a tropical depression or a named storm forming in the next 7 days on this particular graphic. So normally to get a tropical depression, you need a defined low-level circulation. So that's one thing we watch for. When you get that defined low-level circulation, that's kind of like the heart and soul of these tropical systems. But anyways, moving past that, I don't anticipate that to change in the 8 a.m. update, but it could. This is kind of the area we're watching right here, Northeast Gulf, and then off the coast of the southeast. But I think whatever gets going will originate more than likely from this region right here, but might not. And all you're seeing right now is just some pop-up in colors. This indicates colder cloud tops, which means we just have some convection. Same thing as yesterday morning. We just got to watch this region. Could we get some stronger convection, hangs out long enough over the warm waters of the Northeast Gulf here to gain some tropical characteristics? We very well could. And model guidance isn't always the best with this. It really isn't. So even though we've had a little bit of a drop-off, that does not necessarily mean anything. Now, this is the remnants of Tropical Storm Barry. It actually looks more impressive over land than it did yesterday, which is pretty wild. It's just steadily popping off convection. So it's pretty interesting here, and this is going to push a lot of moisture up into Texas. Now, looking at the latest model runs, we're going to start both the GFS and the Euro off with the 4th of July morning, so Friday morning, July 4th. And we'll start off. There is a weak low showing up on the GFS, 1015. I mean, that's just nothing. Fart in the wind, really. It's just not a very strong low pressure at all. But what you'll notice as we move forward, we get into Saturday, all you're going to see is just splotches of green. I mean, nothing defined is really where I'm trying to get at here. We get into Sunday morning. We get into next Monday. Maybe some lower pressure here developing off the coast of the southeast. And then we start to get into Tuesday next week. We're getting about 8 days out at this point. We're getting all the way into late next week, and nothing develops. Even off the aggressive, we know can be a very aggressive GFS, nothing develops. What about the Euro? Same thing. We'll start off the 4th of July morning. Just showers and storms kind of hanging out along a stalled boundary that's straight across or off the coast of the southeast. So we keep this going. Same thing, kind of pops off a 10-15 low, just like the GFS does. Well, don't know what we're doing here. All right, here we go. Okay, we start to get into Saturday morning. Same thing. There's a low showing up down here. Just blobs of green, yellow, and red. Nothing really defined. And then we start to get into Sunday. It's still the same thing. Monday, same thing. Tuesday, same thing. Nothing really gets going. Really at all, guys. I mean, so nothing really develops, which is good. I mean, we could use the rain. I think even if something did develop, I don't think it would cause any chaos. I really don't. But, you look at the 850 millibar Vort map here, and this, when you have a weaker low, this can tell us what's going on a lot better. And we start off, once again, this Friday morning, and there is kind of a elongated right here sort of rotation. You can see the wind barbs kind of rotating cyclonically somewhat, but it almost just looks like kind of an open wave. And then we start to get into the weekend, and, we start to get into Sunday, and we start to get into Monday. Does show some rotation right into here, like Monday morning, something developing. And then it kind of just spins around and then heads on off into the North Atlantic. So I will say this, guys. I mean, the waters are warm. There's a pocket of cooler air. It's kind of odd off the coast of the low country of South Carolina, but this is the Gulf Stream. Obviously, you got the warmer water, and I know you're thinking 29, 30. What? This is in Celsius. So most sea surface maps you're only going to get in Celsius. There's probably some out there in Fahrenheit, but one thing you'll notice is 29, 30 degrees Celsius. If you turn that into Fahrenheit, that's about the mid-80s. Okay, so the northern Gulf is warmer right now than the southern Gulf. So, I mean, temperatures in the mid to even upper 80s as far as Fahrenheit. So it's pretty warm off the coast of the southeast too. But there is some cooler waters closer to the actual coastline. But what I'm trying to get at is the waters are warm enough for tropical development regardless of everything I just said. So, we'll watch. And this is something that can be really sneaky. It can happen. Models did not really reflect a tropical storm with Barry. And some argue it really wasn't. And I would argue that too. It really did not look great on satellite. But had a defined low-level circulation, and they found winds that supported tropical storm force conditions. But anyways, so we'll just watch this. Nothing concerning at all, honestly. I mean, this is rainfall forecast between now and next Tuesday around this time, and most of the heaviest rainfall will stay over the open waters of the Gulf. But, in these yellow areas, this is where we could get, over 4 inches of rain. Tallahassee, 2.5. Gainesville, same thing. Tampa, more so 3 to 4. Sarasota down to Fort Myers, 2 to 4 inches of rain. And just a lot of rain on the way for these areas. But it looks like most of it is going to just, at least the heaviest rainfall, really impact Florida. So, that's all I got on an update on the weather. Let's bring it back to this. I'm going to do something different here. Let's see if we can, I don't want to mess anything up here. So a little bit closer look at my face. I don't know if I like my face being that close. So we're going to book it back down here. That's a little bit too much. Might mess up my flow if I keep on looking up and seeing my face like that. So we'll keep it down in the corner. Somebody in the comments, Haley, her name's Haley, she mentioned that in the future with the devotions, maybe I could bring up the passage of scripture on the screen for you guys. So I'm going to work on that. I think that's a really good idea for people to follow along a little bit better. So I always love y'all's ideas. I don't know if you've noticed, but some of your ideas I have put into the channel, like my buddy Chris in Nebraska. He's from PA. He wanted me to add that. He mentioned that, and I think a lot of you guys have, that my logo at the bottom corner of the screen was kind of blocking my face. So I actually just took the logo off. And after looking at it, y'all are right. But anyways, enough of all that. By the way, before we get going, come here. Oh, man. Come here, Rocket. Come here. I know you guys haven't seen Rocket in a long time. Come here. Come here. You don't want to come here. Poor thing. So I was going to show you Rocket. I know Rocket's a fan favorite. If you don't know who Rocket is, he's my cat. But he don't want to come to me. He just kind of ran from me. I think he's ready to get out of the room. He's kind of trapped in here. So let's get on with this. So this morning we are in James, and we're James chapter 4, verse 1 through 3. James chapter 4, verse 1 through 3. So it says, what is the source of wars and fights among you? Don't they come from your passions that wage war within you? You desire and do not have. You murder and convey and cannot obtain. You fight and wage war. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and don't receive because you ask with wrong motives so that you may spend it on your pleasures. So let me read that one more time. James chapter 4, verse 1 through 3. What is the source of wars and fights among you? Don't they come from your passions that wage war within you? You desire and do not have. You murder and convey and cannot obtain. You fight and wage war. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and don't receive because you ask with wrong motives so that you may spend it on your pleasures. So I wrote down a couple things. I said, the pleasures of this world create conflict within us. These internal struggles create war between what we want and God's will. These worldly desires that we don't have can lead to negative actions. And then it says in Scripture, you ask and don't receive because you ask with wrong motives. Wrong motives behind our prayers to God. So, a lot of times we're praying, but the motives behind our prayers are wrong. We kind of pray for what we want to happen, and then we don't pray for God's will. So, the one thing I said here, I said these worldly desires that we don't have can lead to negative actions. And for example, you got jealousy, you got hate, and for some, the jealousy and the hate leads to war inside of us, but it also leads to war, like fighting, like in country against country. And it leads to killing one another. Sometimes it gets that deep. There's a lot of negative emotions that stem from one thing or the other. Some of the more, obviously we have some really sad things that happen in our country, like school shootings, and sometimes that stems from a kid being bullied, sometime in school. So, it's, people don't know how to handle their emotions, and it's very sad because maybe they were never taught how to handle their emotions. But let's not get off track here. And I said, wrong motives behind our prayers to God. And I said, it's very important to know how to pray to God. So, I think a lot of us probably, we want to. And one thing I've been doing lately is I've really been trying to be more intentional with my prayers and being careful the way I pray. For example, with a couple things that's been breaking in my house lately. One thing, that I'm getting looked at today is my dishwasher. I'm not going to sit here and pray that, oh man, I hope that, I do pray for that also. But let me start off by saying, I'm going to pray that whatever happens, that God, you allow me to handle it the way you would want me to handle it. Also, God, I pray that whatever it is, it's not a big deal. It doesn't cost a lot. But at the end of the day, my priority prayer is going to be, God, help me to handle this in the way that you would want me to handle it. And your will be done on the situation. And if it's something like a catastrophic failure with whatever it is, something breaking, your AC going out, you get in a really bad car wreck, help me to pull the positive out of the situation. That's what I pray for these days. And it's tough to pray for, for that. A lot of people want to ask God for things that, it's just not part of your story that he has for you. And then, a lot of times when, God doesn't obviously answer those prayers, you kind of get irritated, you get mad, and then, that causes us to kind of do what it just said in the Scripture. It causes us to get angry, and some people just lose faith because what they want, their worldly desires and wants, do not end up happening. And then some people force the issue and do it anyways, make it happen, just make it happen. And then they realize that, and sometimes they realize the next day, And then sometimes they don't realize until a decade down the road that they made a huge mistake because you didn't follow God's will in your life. And, part of my testimony is that very thing. Guys, me and my wife, we did everything in reverse. I'll be honest with you, me and my wife had our first kid before we were married. We spent money we didn't have. We maxed out credit cards. Now, I'm very thankful for God to God for this, but luckily we never got behind on bills, but we basically dug ourselves in a hole financially because we wanted things now. And I didn't go to God and say, hey, I want these things, God, but I'm going to get it in your timing. And, I was just weak in my journey, and that's part of my testimony. We did things in sinful ways. And I think everybody goes through that probably at some point in their life, right? I mean, that's probably at least part of everybody's story, but that really is what drove a lot of my 20s. And because I ended up forcing the issue and I ended up doing the things I wanted to do, I paid for it. And the way I paid for it is I had to work 60, 70 hours a week for about 7 years straight of my life. I worked 2 jobs. And I basically was working 2 jobs just to pay bills. We weren't putting any money back in savings. And so I paid for it because I didn't have patience. I didn't trust in God, and I didn't ask for God's will. So I forced the issue and I paid for it. And it took me looking back at that time in my life to realize, where I messed up. And my eyes didn't open until my relationship with God got stronger. It's wild how everything works, right? So, with that being said, just pray for God's will in your life. We seem like we talk about that at least once a week, right? And I just think it's huge. Sometimes it feels like we recycle the same stuff, but listen, me and my buddy talk about this all the time because we audio text each other, and we literally just talk about the same stuff over and over and over again. But it's good. It's good conversation, and that's what you're supposed to do. I mean, so it says you ask and don't receive because you ask with wrong motives, so that you may spend it on your pleasures. I mean, it's cut and dry. I mean, it lists it right there. So if you're wondering why your prayers aren't being answered for something and you're iffy about it, I think that tells a lot there. It speaks on a lot. Now, sometimes you believe with everything you got, that what you're working for is the right thing. And that's when you have to have faith and be patient. And I'm speaking to myself there too, guys. So God bless all y'all. Appreciate y'all. And you guys have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon. God bless.